If your life was a dance, what movements are you performing? Does your body recognize the rhythm? And what steps might you be avoiding on your bridge from chaos to clarity? Dance saved me from an identity crisis. Am I British or am I Indian? Go back to where you came from, they told me at school. But the truth was, I didn't know where I came from. So when that voice got louder from the kids across the street, go back to your own country, I decided to follow. At 18 years old, as my friends were getting ready for university, I was getting on a plane to fly to India, my motherland. I told my family that I was going to learn Indian classical dance, but in actual fact, I was going to find myself. And as I stepped out of the airport, I was greeted with culture shock, pollution, noise, heat, insects. And yet, for the first time in my life, I felt a sense of belonging. My dance training was intensive. The days were long, with heavy bells around my ankles, rhythm and music in the air, discipline in every movement. I was privileged to train in a lineage where every gesture, every angle, and every nuance was corrected. Because in Indian classical art forms, precision is devotion. And it's through that discipline that I found peace. As my body moved with grace and flow, I felt alive, and that aliveness gave me clarity, even when everything around me appeared to be chaotic. And so after a decade of traveling back and forth to India, something inside me clearly said, share this. And so I did, not because it made sense, but because it felt like my calling. I set up a dance school, and I loved being in flow, performing, teaching, choreographing. I performed at events all over the world. I won awards, and I watched students grow up with the art form. Dance became a steady rhythm in their changing lives. But the turning point for me came when I launched my dance studio. A dream come true, milestone, moment of pride. I had built the life that I thought I was destined to live. And yet, within days of the launch, I had a serious health scare. My body forced me to stop as I underwent months of investigations. And what followed was a mystery illness, major lung surgery, and eventually a chronic health diagnosis. Strangely, during that time, my greatest fear wasn't that I might not have long to live. My fear was that I might not ever dance again. But I carried on. I managed my symptoms, I lived with the side effects, and even though I couldn't perform as much myself, I kept the school going for my students. And on the outside, my life still looked meaningful. But on the inside, something was unsettled. I couldn't name it, I could only feel it. And I think like many of us do, I ignored it. I stayed loyal to my responsibilities. I kept achieving credentials and certifications. I kept showing up for the life that looked right on paper. But as the years went on, the responsibilities grew, and that voice inside me got louder. My creativity felt stifled as I was ticking boxes, juggling roles, and being the support system for everyone else's dreams, except my own. And honestly, there were times where I felt as though my soul was on the sidelines. What I didn't know at that time was this wasn't failure. I was outgrowing a former identity. If my life was a dance, I was performing choreography that no longer matched the music. The choreography of survival. And I think many of us know what that feels like. Staying in a job, a role, a relationship, a version of ourselves that once fit but no longer does. And yet we keep performing it because it's familiar, it's expected of us, and because we're good at it. But if we're being honest, somewhere inside, something is no longer in rhythm. The life that looks right on the outside might not feel true on the inside. It was during the pandemic that I reconnected with a concept from the ancient Indian language of Sanskrit. And that concept is dharma. Dharma is living in alignment with what feels true. It's the direction in life that feels authentic and alive. And then there is karma, often misunderstood as punishment. Karma is a pattern of cause and effect. It's the habits that we repeat, the roles we inherit, the identities that we perform out of duty, conditioning, obligation, and fear. Karma keeps us functional. Dharma makes us feel alive. And once I felt that, it was hard to go back. I love dance and my community, but my life had become a pattern. It had become my karma. And suddenly I felt like I was standing at the threshold of a bridge. On one side was my current identity, stuck in the chaos of conditioning. And on the other side was the truth that now wanted to lead me towards the clarity of my calling. Creativity was the bridge between these two sides. This time, not through an art form, but through courage and creative choice. To me, creativity is choosing to listen to your intuition over your fear. I began to realize that the voice in my mind and those symptoms in my body were not coincidences. They were signals. Not that something was wrong, but that something was no longer true. My body was not betraying me. It was simply showing me that my life was not in alignment with my soul's purpose. And once I saw that truth, I couldn't unsee it. I was torn because what I had called my purpose had in fact been my foundation. It was not my destination. It had given me roots, but now life was asking me to pivot. And so I made the bravest decision. I stepped back from my dream business of 20 years. And when I closed that door for the last time, I let go of my labels. And when that sign came down with my name on it, I let go of my roles. I let go of the core identity that I had spent decades forming. And after healing, processing, and grieving, What remained was not the manager, the teacher, the business owner. What remained was me. And that is what Dharma has come to mean for me. It's not perfection or ease, it's honesty and integrity. It's making aligned choices instead of inherited ones. It's responding to inner knowing, not outer obligation. After all, the world doesn't need more performance. It needs more truth. It needs people being who they truly are, not who they are pretending to be. And ancient wisdom isn't the only tradition that understood this. In Western psychology, Carl Jung gave the name shadow to the parts of ourselves that we suppress in order to survive. And he referred to this process of becoming whole as individuation. I call it the journey from karma to dharma. Dharma is the moment that we stop being who we had to be and we start becoming who we are meant to be. Dharma feels like freedom. It feels like flow. Today, I still dance, not for performance, but for presence. Not to prove who I am, but to return to who I am. Maybe that's what it means to dance with your Dharma.
I've been quiet, I've been strong, holding pieces for so long. Every scar, every worry, every chapter, every story. There were nights I felt unseen, questioning what it all could mean. Tried to fit in someone else's frame, carried silence, carried shame. Smiled through what I couldn't say, learned to bend but not to break. Every tear I tried to hide was building power deep inside. I'm not who I was before. I've walked through every open door, and even when the road was blurry, I was writing my own story. This is my story. These are my scars. This is the fire inside my heart. Every mistake, every glory, let me right here. This is my story. This is my story. I'm standing tall. I didn't quit. I faced it all. Every chapter, every worry made me who I am. This is my story.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nikita.
My story shows how creativity can be the bridge from chaos to clarity. So let me ask you again. If your life was a dance, what movements are you performing? Does your body still recognize the rhythm? And what steps could you now take on your bridge? Because your crossing requires one honest step, one creative act of courage, one moment of listening to your intuition over your fear. Your Dharma isn't waiting to be discovered, it's waiting to be danced. Thank you.